So it's 2005. There's still a couple of rounds left in the World Championship, but Fernando Alonso is already the champion, having just won it at Interlagos. The interest in the championship therefore is already over, unless you are a Renault or McLaren employee, in which case the constructors title is still up for grabs. Alonso and Fisichella would do their utmost for Renault by finishing on the podium in this race, while one Pablo Montoya would do his utmost for McLaren by smashing into the wall like a fucking idiot. This wasn't ideal for McLaren. However, their other driver was Kimi Raikkonen, and although he was starting the race from 17th on the grid, his performance in this race would certify him as an absolute bona fide forever legend, not just of Formula 1, but of all time in motor racing. Given the nature of this video, it's imperative that we look back at Kimi's beginnings. Born in an area of Finland where Finnish is a second language to vodka, Kimi won every karting accolade in the region before trying his hand at car racing, as you do when you're Finnish. He ran around in Formula Ford for a couple of meetings before immediately going back to karting. He then made his way to Formula Renault in the UK in 1999 after Dave and Steve Robertson gave him enough coin to drag him out of karts. He wound up winning the Winter Series that year. Once the year 2000 came along and the world hadn't ended yet, Kimi competed in 2 racing series that year, Formula Renault UK and the Formula Renault Euro Cup. In the latter, he only partook in a couple of races, although he wound up winning both of them at Donington and Spa. And with that UK Championship, he would finish quite a way ahead of Ryan Dalziel to take the title. So a pretty good start to his campaign, and his junior Formula plans for 2001 were pretty straightforward. Ditch junior Formula and go straight to Formula 1. A pretty abrupt ascent up the ladder, but after impressing Peter Selber at a test session in September 2000, where he was lapping half a second faster than Pedro Diniz, whoop-de-doo, Sauber decided to sign the young lad up for the 2001 season to partner Nick Heidfeld. There were some out there who were concerned by this move, saying that he was too inexperienced a driver to be out there on that Formula 1 grid. However, in Helmut Marko's case, he didn't want Kimi on that team because he was of the opinion that Enrique Bernoldi was the superior driver. I mean, I got a feel for Marko there. Selling the idea that Bernoldi was the better driver would have been a hard task. On the other hand, vouching for Raycon is not tricky at all, for you see, Raycon is a brand of wireless earbuds that give you the sounds of the other premium brands, but start at half the price of those premium brands. Now, I'm always listening to stuff, whether it be music or audiobooks or my own annoying accent, and after Raycon contacted me, I thought, okay, let's see what's what. So I've been running around with these beauties for the last few weeks, using them on an everyday basis to see how they compare, and they've been bloody awesome because of their new improved rubber oil look and feel. They are nice and comfortable. They have a long battery life, 32 hours to be exact, so you can continue to belt music through your ears for that long if you want. If you're that mad. The audio quality is amazing wherever you go, whether you're working out or going to work, and they have a built-in microphone so you can take calls from El Presidente. And furthermore, unlike some other brands, there are 5 stylistic colors for you to choose from. So, click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/Josh Revel and use the code HOLIDAY to get 15% off site-wide. With free shipping and returns, gifting is easier than ever. It also comes with a 45-day happiness guarantee, which is something Helmut Marko probably could have done with when Peter Selber told him to get lost, and the Bernoldi plans took an arrow to the knee. On that experience front though, the F1 Commission eventually voted Kimi into their little club and allowed him to race under a provisional license. He and Heidfeld would prove to be a good pairing, with both scoring points in the first round that year, even if Kimi was found 30 minutes before the start of the race fast asleep under the table of his motorhome. He became famous for this cool, calm approach to racing, thus leading him to be dubbed the Iceman. But seriously, how can you not love a driver with an attitude like this? Sleep, race, repeat. That year was a decent one for Sauber, with the team finishing in P4 in the constructors race. Heidfeld, who got a podium in Brazil, was heavily linked to McLaren after Mika Hakkinen fled to sabbatical. And with Nick having been part of the McLaren family for a while, he was naturally assumed to be the heir to the throne in that regard. But he wasn't. Now, that must have sucked, because you could see that McLaren were looking at this guy like, wow, you're quick, you're a great ambassador for the brand, you've got good racecraft, you've got good, oh no, wait, hang on, you're 5'11". Instead, they went for Kimi, who was also linked to Ferrari, although apparently he turned them down because he strolled into a fortune teller's tent one night who foretold him about Austria 2002. He wasn't so keen on the idea of playing second fiddle, and so went off to Woking to partner David Coulthard for the 2002 season. He did score a podium in the Demolition Derby race in Melbourne, although this didn't exactly herald a stream of amazing results for him. In the 17 races that year, his car failed him 8 times, and even in the times where it didn't fail him, such as in France, fate intervened and prevented him from winning his maiden Grand Prix. 2003 was a little bit better, save for the debacle that was the MP4-18 that Adrian Newey was hell-bent on putting onto that grid. If you don't know the story behind that, basically, the drivers just didn't want to drive it anymore after it kept on throwing them into the wall during testing, but the car that did actually take to the grid was solid enough as it was. It was certainly good enough to take Kimi to his first Grand Prix victory in Malaysia that year, and although he didn't win any anything else, he turned up to the last round in Japan with a mathematical chance of winning the title. It was a long shot, for sure, but to hell with it, what's the harm in trying? He started that race from 8th on the grid, but Michael Schumacher, his main competitor, decided to make life a little bit difficult for himself by starting down in 14th. Okay, there's still a chance here. Ultimately though, Rubens Barrichello took victory in that race, preventing Kimi from getting the points needed to win the title, and even if he did win that race, Schumi's 8th place finish wrapped up the title anyway. Kimi perhaps may have had a better shot at the title if at the Nürburgring his engine didn't go bang, or if the checkered flag dropped a little earlier at Interlagos, or if Ferrari didn't whinge to the FIA about the tyre legality on a McLaren, which is hardly a new thing. But ultimately, it was a great run from Kimi, although 2004 was a total show. McLaren really didn't deliver him a car worthy of carrying him to a title run, even if Ferrari hadn't turned up with that Goliath of a car. Slow, unreliable, up until the revisions helped the car's performance enough to give him a win in Spa, being at least some creme of comfort, I suppose. 2005, however, would bring with it, what was it, a change of fortunes? Well, from one aspect it was. The new car was, how could I put this? Alright, the MP420 was much like Jeremy Clarkson's Mitsubishi Starion. It was mind-bogglingly fast, overtaking everything in existence right up until it died. So that year was fraught with mechanical failures, which in turn influenced the outcome of some results. With Kimi winning 7 out of the 19 races that year regardless, he definitely had the speed to win that title. Raw speed, that is. Like out-qualifying Alonso by half a second at Monaco kinda proved that. And his performance at Suzuka, which we'll get to later. But on the whole, fate intervened. As many would say, Kimi in this time was arguably the best driver in the world, even with the likes of Michael Schumacher still fighting for world titles and the Lord of the Eyebrows making his ascent up to the top of the world. In 2006, they finally fixed the reliability problems, but they then inherited a new issue in that the car wasn't that brilliant. And when neither Kimi or Montoya can get the car working for you, yeah, the issue may not be down to the drivers, you get me? Montoya skipped town midway through the year, whilst Kimi had to make do with podiums and pole positions, but no wins. As the season drew to a close and Schumacher had announced his retirement from Formula 1, Ferrari signed Iceman up to fill the void for 2007. To some, this would seem like a daft move, considering the force that McLaren would become in that year. The car was certainly better that year, but to those thinking all of this, you are aware of what happened that year, eh? Round 1 in Melbourne, pole position, fastest lap, race winner. Boom. It was a fantastic start for Kimi, although he did struggle to make something of the new tyres and thus started to fall away from the leaders as the season drew on. By the 7th round of the year, he was 26 points behind Lewis Hamilton in the standings, but then he won at Manicourt and again at Silverstone. These 2 Grand Prix wins meant that he was now just 18 points behind Lewis. Quite a ways granted, but it wasn't impossible to win this thing. He failed to finish the boat race at the Nürburgring, but from there on in, he would score a podium in every remaining race that season. Remarkable consistency and great for his championship cause, even if Lewis had it totally sewn up. There was no way he was going to blow a 12-point lead with 2 rounds remaining. At least one would have thought that before he found out that the canvas of the tyres don't have much grip. And so for the final round that year in Interlagos, 7 points separated Lewis and Kimi. Still kind of implausible, but then again, you never know what may happen. And what happened was some gearbox issues with Lewis early in the race. This threw him down the order and would eventually come home in 7th place. Kimi, meanwhile, would scythe on through to take the win, with teammate Felipe Massa acting as a rear gunner. So what did this mean? Well, you guessed it. Kimi Raikkonen became the world champion by 1 point, a little tighter than he would have liked. Shut up. But he was the world champion, and it was thoroughly deserved, adding to Finland's already large array of world champions: Keke Rosberg, Tommi Mäkinen, Juha Kankkunen, Mika Häkkinen, Marcus Gronholm, and now Kimi Raikkonen. But what was perhaps the most amazing thing about that was that despite this being a long overdue championship win for him, this would be the only time he'd win a title, because for 2008, his title defense was kind of munted. Although I must admit, it started well. After the 4th round in Spain, he was leading the title race by 9 points over Lewis and 11 points over his teammate. It was early days though, and eventually Kimi began to fade away as the year drew on. There was some bad luck that year, including an exhaust failure at Manicourt and Lewis yeeting into him at Montreal, but some of those poor results were down to him. And I know how that may sound, but sometimes even the best make mistakes. He scored 3 podiums to cap off the year, but the inconsistent results pretty much killed his title hopes, finishing 3rd that year behind his teammate. 2009, and Ferrari had turned up with an average car that Kimi and Felipe struggled to make sense of. Once the improvements came, however, the results started to pick up too. But as Martin Brundle had pointed out, maybe Kimi wasn't as motivated to be driving in Formula 1 anymore. Sounds kind of incredulous to say that, but when Ferrari announced Alonso would replace him for 2010, this left many people to wonder where he may be going. Returning to McLaren? Joining Mercedes? Join Stefan Grand Prix? Provided, you know, that the owner would stop bull and actually do something. Well, Nah. Instead, Kimi would touch upon an ambition that he had harbored for a while. He was going to drive in the World Rally Championship. He would also try his hand at NASCAR, albeit only briefly. He drove a couple of races at Charlotte, and neither of them yielded much of a result. On the rally front though, things were a little bit more successful, albeit only a little more. After a couple of years in the WRC, he conjured up some respectable results. Although with a dude so used to winning, perhaps this is where the temptation came for him to get back into Formula One. And when he was spotted snooping around the Williams premises, people were starting to lose their minds. The prodigal son is returning to Formula One. Well, he would, just not with Williams. Instead, he would sign a contract with Lotus, which was ironic given that he had previously lambasted the team after they had cooked rumors of him going to their team for 2010 for publicity reasons. Supposedly. I don't know. Kimi may have had Magnum-induced brain freeze on that one. But in any case, he would be teamed up with Romain Grosjean for his F1 return in 2012. If that year proved anything, it was that he still had it. And this was best exemplified at the final round in Abu Dhabi, where he knew what the f he was doing. And it's this kind of attitude that endeared him to the fans. That take no shit attitude, his calm demeanor, his hatred of interviews, the blunt responses to almost every question thrown his way.
Kimi, what happened?
I spun.
The only thing is that in recent years, it seems that that's all anyone's ever talked about with Kimi. They never seem to refer to his on-track stuff, which is why we're all here after all. And after finishing in P3 in the standings in his F1 return in 2012, he would kick off 2013 remarkably well, winning the race in Melbourne with the fastest lap. However, despite finishing second 89 million times that year, things within the team weren't so hot. F1 drivers are already paid an absurd amount of money, but as part of Kimi's contract with Lotus, he would be paid 50,000 euros for every point that he scored. In the 2 years that he was there, he scored 390 points. Now, I ain't a mathematician, but when you add that up, it works out to 19,500,000 euros owed. And rumors abound he wasn't being paid. There were also other internal problems, with verbal fits being flung around, and the threat of Finland waging war with Western Europe should he be asked to roll over for Grosjean. Such was the tension within the team that he almost didn't bother racing in Abu Dhabi at all. And when he ended up retiring from that race, he just left. Poof. He claimed he missed the last 2 rounds due to back surgery, but who knows? Anyway, having left Enstone, he found his way back to Maranello, where Ferrari gave Felipe Massa the old heave-ho, and looking to reignite the success they had before with Iceman, Fernando Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen teamed up at Ferrari. Oh boy, that's tantalizing. What they didn't account for was the heap of rubbish that Ferrari attempted to call a Formula One car that had been thrust upon their drivers. Alonso won nothing that year, and Kimi didn't even get a podium. Ouch. Struggling to get to grips with the brake-by-wire system and with the car behaving like a dog with worms. This was not the Kimi we wanted to see, and it sure as wasn't what Ferrari were expecting. When Sebastian Vettel came in 2015, things did not get a hell of a lot easier for Kimi there on in. Truth be told, in the 4 years they were teammates, it was clear who had the upper hand there. Not that he didn't have his moments. In his last year with the Scuderia, Kimi performed valiantly at Monza, scoring pole against the might of the Merckx-Lewis combo to the delight of the Tifosi. And in Aston, he would take his first win since 2013, bending off Hamilton in fine style. However, even this wasn't enough. For 2019, Ferrari would bring on their protege Charles Leclerc, while Kimi went back to his old team at Sauber, now known as Alfa Romeo. The team was never going to deliver him a car worthy of the Kimi we know, but this move kind of signaled the beginning of the end in a way. He still put in some heroic performances, but how long was he going to put up battling for 12th on the grid? The answer came in 2021 when he announced his retirement from Formula One. And so on the eve of his final race in Formula One, we reflect upon what he's done in the sport. Looking at the last few years doesn't help. The fun side of Kimi, the meme-tastic side, I guess you could say, was always put at the forefront when it came to media or media. Whether it's his radio messages,
Steering wheel, claps the steering wheel here. Come on! Whoa!
bringing up his ice cream fetish, his knack for finding the drink when he's not in the car, or tales of times like 2006 Monaco where, after being conked out of the race, he just went straight to his yacht and put his feet up. Complete lack of given to his team for the debrief, which kind of sucks, for we know that prime Kimi Raikkonen was indomitable. The best example of this? Suzuka 2005. Thanks to a rain-affected qualifying session and a lemon Merc engine, he started that race from 17th on the grid. The objective really was to get points for McLaren for the constructors title. Montoya took no heed of this and proceeded to smash his car into the barrier. Raikkonen, meanwhile, was joining Alonso in their ascent up the running order, scything through the field, taking names, with Alonso sweeping past Schumi on the outside of 130R, which sent James Allen into an explosion of ecstasy, although that was probably down to the stash that Frank Montagny brought along that weekend. He eventually worked his way into the lead with 10 to go before coming in for his final pit stop. By then, Giancarlo Fisichella was now in the lead. Kimi had it all to do now. It was a run to the finish. With 3 laps to go, Kimi was right on Fisi's gearbox, but for however awesome the circuit is at Suzuka, passing on that circuit is tricky at the best of times. Fisi though was fighting tooth and nail to keep Kimi behind, but that one piece of open door for Kimi was all that he needed. On the final lap of the race, on the approach to turn 1, Kimi went for it, around the outside, and made it stick. From 17th on the grid to win the race by passing around the outside going into turn 1. This win summed up Kimi as a driver, just really damn fast, so much raw speed, and it was hardly a one-off. It's what immortalized him as a great driver for a lot of people. It is why people say that prime Kimi Raikkonen was the best driver in the world. Yeah, he's a great personality, and we'll miss the hell out of him, but this guy, the dude who performed all those heroics back in the day as he chased after his world championship, that is the Kimi I'll remember. It's the Kimi I'm gonna miss. That we'll all miss. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Drop a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you're awesome, and always remember, keep it respectful, be wholesome, don't be a manus, and as always, I'll see you all later.